Hola amigos, welcome back ladies and gentlemen on this fabulous Thursday for what is going to be nothing short of another jam-packed daily cryptocurrency market update with yours truly. I'm wishing you all a wonderful day wherever you are and whatever it is you are doing. We have some really interesting things to dive into in this video. We're going to be kicking things off with a clip over from CNBC of VanEck's head of digital assets talking about brighter days ahead of us and the forced sellers are now behind us. This also would align with technically what we're looking at for Bitcoin, this descending broadening structure that I do believe is just a pullback in a broader uptrend. And then he also mentions where Bitcoin is in relation to its cyclical 4-year cycles. We'll be looking at that. And then we're going to be talking about probably one of the largest opportunities to present itself within the cryptocurrency space. And he mentions Bitcoin miners in relation to, instead of using that compute for mining Bitcoin, to actually enable AI with it. I think this is a massive narrative. Now, I own more of one Bitcoin miner that you'll unlock when you become a Patreon than I do Bitcoin itself, because I think it's going to provide multiples on Bitcoin's returns on a generally good time for Bitcoin. And we also will, in the video, look at a number of Bitcoin miners that are all positioned in the same direction, that ultimately give us further evidence and confidence that the space is going to do well. Just like Coinbase. When we looked at Coinbase, we said, okay, we're bullish on Coinbase, $30, $40 it was. It went up to nearly 300. We reckon it's getting to 400 plus. That isn't going to be going up in an environment where crypto generally isn't. In the same way that Bitcoin miners won't be going up, or MicroStrategy, which we looked at, institutions taking a $50 million bet in one day on a leveraged, I think it's MSTX, MicroStrategy ETF, they wouldn't look bullish and be going up if the market generally isn't. So often what we do here, and how we're quite unique as a channel, is we can correlate markets together technically, and when they all point, when they all walk and talk and quacketh in the same direction, it's a duck, ladies and gentlemen, and we go with that. One reason we've been bullish, one reason why we've been keeping people very kind of steady in what is a volatile time, certainly for the altcoin market, because now the opportunity is present. We need to get back to making evening videos and being zealous with the content we put out, because there's so much opportunity here in the crypto space, ladies and gentlemen. And we're going to be talking about miners and the roles they may play. And then we're going to be looking at the Fed minutes from yesterday. Likely cut coming in September. No surprises there. Largely priced in. We also had US job revision down by the most since 2009, which some people are saying is really negative. I think the flip side of that is actually often bad news is the perfect time to be betting on a... Now, the bad news is over with. Some people price in bad news, and then it actually turns out to be the perfect time. You know, bad news is always bad news at the bottom of a market, if that makes sense. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let us dive in. I'm going to go ahead and mute my mic. Let us dive into a clip of VanEck's head of digital assets. First of all, talking about the market and the forced sellers being behind us, and then talking about Bitcoin miners, the AI narrative, and how it all coincides. There's a massive opportunity there, one that I'm positioned for, not just with Bitcoin miners, but also with decentralized computing networks. Could they be used to mine Bitcoin? We certainly know they're used to enable AI, and I actually believe there's 100x opportunities. We've got a couple coming out of this. So let's get into it all, guys. I'm fired up, and you should be too if you're interested in the crypto space. Let's get into
How do you explain that disconnect between what gold's doing right now and the way that Bitcoin's been acting over the last couple of months?
Yeah, so a few factors are at play. One is the unwind of various carry trades and growth, which has been struggling a little bit. And when you look at Bitcoin's correlation with the NASDAQ, it's at a 2-year high. It's well below the highs that we had in kind of late 2022, but it's a 2-year high. The second reason is there are forced sellers in the market. The German government has sold all of its Bitcoin, $2 billion worth. The US government is selling Silk Road related coins. There are 2 major bankruptcies where creditors have just been paid out. That's Mt. Gox and Genesis. So with all this forced selling behind us, and this is a typical seasonal pattern where Bitcoin tends to struggle in the kind of 1 to 3 months after the halving, which was in April, and right pre-election, as the market comes to grips with whatever candidate wins, we're in for 4 more years of reckless fiscal policy. The history is that Bitcoin really hits its stride at that point. So we're buyers here. We think it recovers.
So can you connect the...
I just want to unmute myself and comment on what he said, because the second part of what he has to say is truly fascinating. So in regards to the seasonality for Bitcoin, markets generally, sell in May, come back in St. Leger's Day. That's a saying to take forward and remember in your market journeys. We don't just want to give people fish here on the channel. We want to teach you to fish. We want you guys to understand markets from a technical point of view. We're releasing courses. We might even we'll put an 80% discount on it because I want people to try it out. In regards to understanding market cycles, when to buy, when to sell, what to do in an uptrend, what to do in a downtrend, the market mastery course. Stay tuned for that. We'll probably do a video where we look at maybe 5 altcoins that have not just broken out but came back for a retest and are off. Helium's one. There's a number of them out there that I think there's big opportunities out of. But he mentioned seasonality in regards to Bitcoin. Bitcoin is well ahead of schedule and it has everything to do with institutional involvement, which is a good thing. Your altcoin market, by the way, is exactly where it should be. And the altcoins, the anomaly, of course, is Bitcoin. The altcoins haven't had the institutional inflows unless it's been Solana or Ethereum. Solana saw the most, this month's week's CoinShare report saw the most outflows in regards to Solana. Same thing happened with Ethereum before it had its ETF. And we know there's a Solana ETF pending. So altcoins are really where they should be. But Bitcoin's generally doing what it always does. And the Bitcoin 4-year cycle theory aligns with global liquidity cycles, PMI cycles, and presidential electoral cycles. I did this video with my Patreons on Tuesday, so a couple of days ago. If you do become a Patreon today, go and watch that video because you'll be putting on the armor of technical analysis ready to do battle in what is sometimes a volatile and confusing market. Ignore the noise from outside. So Bitcoin very much where it should be. This is just a pullback in what is a broader uptrend. I do think you're going to break this. Altcoins have just given way under this. We're seeing altcoins, when Bitcoin choose its direction, the altcoin market will fly, ladies and gentlemen. And I want people to be a part of that. I can't financially advise anybody, but what I can do is say, there's an opportunity here, guys. Pay attention. So let's dive into now this second half of his video where he talks about Bitcoin miners, which give us reason to be bullish on the space as a whole, but also are an opportunity within themselves. In fact, we have one miner. I can't remember what the multiple is. I'm going to go ahead and bring it up in terms of to take a look at the multiple. It's currently just in the double digits. And from today's price, I believe there's a 24x on it, potentially. My entire family, perhaps to my own detriment, owns some of this stock, and it's a Bitcoin miner. So let us now dive into the second half of this clip. Talking about Bitcoin miners, we'll look at a few Bitcoin miners, some of the other ones out there, Mara, Wolf, these sort of things. Wolf was another one that we're actually on. And then we'll talk about some macro-y boring stuff.
The history is that Bitcoin really hits its stride at that point. So we're buyers here. We think it recovers.
So can you connect the dots for us right now? Given everything you've said, the AI trade on this particular move is linked to the power usage and the conversion factor and how to actually make that work. I would argue if you look at a stock like NextEra Energy on the utility side, that has been a derivative AI play as well on this. How do you connect those dots simply about the AI trade versus the Bitcoin miners?
The data center companies are trading at north of 30 times, $30 million per megawatt of electrical capacity that they control, $30 million. The Bitcoin miners are trading at $3 million, right? So now it's not a complete one-for-one transition. They need to find customers. They need to buy the GPUs or have someone else buy the GPUs and install them. But there is an enormous arbitrage. And the companies that have been most aggressive on this year to date, Core Scientific, TeraWulf, Iris Energy, those are the stocks that have outperformed. We just had another one after the bell at 4 p.m. today, BTBT, $700 million AI deal. Our hunch is that as more of these Bitcoin miners make these announcements, those will be the stocks that outperform because it brings their cost of capital down.
This is why I'm a technical analyst, because the charts show you the future narrative. There's always a narrative. Always a narrative. One big one for this bull market is BlackRock. Bitcoin was positioned to do well, and we were looking at that inverse head and shoulders in the sort of 20K range. The narrative it always comes after it. You don't know the narrative because you're not an insider, but we can follow those footprints in the sand by looking technically at the charts, ladies and gents. Let's take a look at some Bitcoin miners. So, and remember this saying. I'm being a bit overly zealous with the walking, talking, quacking like a duck saying, but it's all right. So, Mara, by the way, is a technical beauty in regards to technical analysis. Head and shoulders here in the last bull, worked. Head and shoulders here, worked. And you now have a head and shoulders here that's likely going to see Mara go from $17.73 all the way to $116. Now, we also know that exchange traded products look very similar in regards to what they're going to do. These are a little bit off topic here, but these are crypto baskets. They all point in the same direction. But we've got another couple. You know, if you look at something like Riot's one of the weaker ones. Hot 8, very much positioned to do great things. And obviously you mentioned TerraWolf there, which broke out, came back. It looks like the IWM, doesn't it? And is likely going to continue its journey higher. Certainly we've got this target here. And we've been looking at Terra in the sort of $1-2 range. Get in on these opportunities, ladies and gentlemen. Obviously Coinbase took a bit of a beating. This isn't Coinbase, sorry, this is Riot. But I do think it will raise its hand. He also mentioned B2, right? Yeah, look at this. This is ready to go. Basing. You'll get a big break. It's just ranging and you'll get a big break out of this. Don't really have any price predictions on this. I just didn't know about this one. But there's an AI narrative there. And that could be what sees these miners do absolutely spectacularly, ladies and gentlemen. Because everyone's talking about DeepIn. Bitcoin is the original DeepIn network. I say this to people and they look at me like I'm crazy. All in, what are you talking about, mate? Well, what is DeepIn? Decentralized physical infrastructure. How does Bitcoin work on decentralized physical infrastructure? And it's found out a way to correlate them. Satoshi solved more than one problem. There's a bigger narrative for distributed ledgers than Bitcoin, in my opinion, money. Certainly in the digital world that we're moving towards. We're going to be doing lots of videos on the digital world that we're moving towards. One is going to be that robots are taking over, which might seem obvious to some, but we'll really be showing you that that is the case, even in regards to stupid little things like cleaning up, like opening a door. You know, robots have replaced many things already, and that's only going to accelerate with the dawn of AI and all these other things. Let's talk a little bit about boring macro stuff, unfortunately, guys. You want longer videos on this, let me know in the comment section. You ask, and we shall deliver. We had the Fed minutes yesterday. I think Jackson Hole's today, is it? Points to a likely rate cut coming in September. I think it's very likely. I don't think they're going to go too fast down because they need to protect their currency. The significance of this is we saw just how central banks manipulate markets through interest rates and thus the currency. This is the Japanese yen versus the dollar. When they strengthen, the Nikkei, which is their native, and the Nikkei is a short yen trade. You can see that very clearly here. There's alpha in that saying. But when they strengthen this, it's sold off. And then when this is, you can see how correlated these are, ladies and gents. The unwinding of the Japanese yen carry trade saw almost as much volatility by the VIX as March 2020. Which is like, it's a perfect time to be you want to get in after volatile events. Like March 2020 was a great buying opportunity. Won't always be the case. Sometimes you have large events that will actually then cause a cascade of other events like 2008. But that's for a different video. So we know the central bank are essentially the biggest central bank, the Fed, the largest provider of global liquidity, which aligns with global liquidity cycles, are about to start doing the adverse of what we saw take place with the yen and thus the markets. That's going to pump global liquidity. The one landmine really is jobs growth. So I am eagerly anticipating jobs growth on the first Friday of September. US job growth revised down by the most since 2009. Why this time is different, which is interesting. And I think the most obvious markets often, and why we're technical analysis again, is because we can sort of gauge a bit of a map of things. But markets sometimes don't seem logical, but often they are. So why might jobs growth be in the manner that it is? Well, of course, remember what happened in March 2020 with the lockdowns. And then there's going to be a resurgence on that and then a cooling off, and it kind of skews traditional models, if you will. But you've got to be very careful saying that this time is different. So that is it from me, ladies and gentlemen. Brighter days are ahead of us. Major opportunities with Bitcoin miners as we might actually see them enable AI. AI is very compute hungry. Sam Altman himself said he needs about $7 trillion for this. There's estimates way higher than that in regards to facilitating AI. In an ever increasingly digital world where compute becomes the oil of tomorrow, compute becomes a valuable resource. And ultimately the largest companies already are data centers, computer centers. And that's only going to accelerate and continue. We could talk about so much, but we're going to leave it there for this daily market update. If you enjoy the content, like us, appreciate it, so as a comment, and I'll see each and every one of you beautiful people in the next YouTube video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one, guys.